Pain isn't even the right word for what I feel. Pain implies something human, and I left that behind long ago. I remember a face in a mirror that was once mine. Stern eyes under a high forehead. The face of a soldier, they said, the bearing of an officer. That was before the steel, before the rites, before the sacred unmaking, before the tech priests with their clicking augmetics stripped away what I had been and rebuilt me into what I am, into what we are. Invictus Rex, God Machine, Engine of War, Prison of Flesh. The memory of who I was slips through my grasp like water through failing hands. My thoughts no longer belong entirely to me. They rise and recede in rhythm with the machine's needs. I'm a component now, a neural circuit, a cluster of synapses repurposed for the glory of the Omnissiah, for the Imperium, for mankind. Yet I still exist. The pain always proves it when they wake us. Power surges through ancient circuitry. Capacitors charge. Plasma reactors roar to life. My consciousness shatters and spreads, scattered across kilometers of sanctified cabling and blessed metal. I feel every link, every sensor, every gun mount and system that forms our body. My agony is total, absolute, and utterly irrelevant to the tech priests who tend this chassis. I am Joris Kell. I was Joris Kell. Once I was a man, but now I march beside the God Machines. Now I am the God Machine. I howl through a Voxhorn voice that can shatter mountains and topple cities. I kill with weapons that erase regiments, and every death echoes as if it were my own. Today they will rouse us again. Today we will march. Today we will kill. This is what passes for my life now, the nightmare existence of a Titan Servitor. I no longer know when I'm truly awake or when I drift in some machine-haunted dream. Reality bleeds into memory. Hallucination merges with holy duty. Only the pain is constant. Only the pain is real. It pins me to this half-life. Sometimes I welcome it. Without the pain, I would dissolve entirely. Without the pain, Joris Kell would vanish altogether. My first clear memory after the transformation was darkness. Not just the absence of light, but the absence of self. I floated, disconnected, unable to sense where I was or even track my own thoughts. Then came the first surge of power, the first link, the first moment of shared awareness with the Titan. I remember believing I screamed. I had no mouth, no lungs, no body to call my own. But still I screamed, a silent, desperate howl that existed only within the walls of my mind. The tech priests called it integration. I called it death. But it was not death. Death would have been mercy. This was dissolution. The boundary between myself and the machine began to blur. I felt its systems as if they were extensions of my own flesh. Auspex arrays became my eyes. Weapons became my hands. Colossal armored legs became my limbs. And with that bond came a single, searing purpose, burned into the remnants of my neural tissue. Obey. Fight. Kill. For the glory of the Emperor. For the survival of mankind. For the honor of the Legio. I hear them sometimes. The other components, fragments of consciousness embedded throughout the vast frame of Invictus Rex. Some were once officers like me. Others were criminals, penitents, or simply unfortunate souls caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now we all serve the same function. Now we share the same doom. We are the ghosts in the machine. The human element the Mechanicus insists is necessary for optimal performance. Our emotions, our instincts, our knack for split-second decisions, all harvested and wired into the circuits. We are not pilots. We are not crew. We are cogitator nodes made of flesh, and we all feel the same pain. The first battle after my integration is burned into what counts as my memory. We strode across a barren plain toward a rebellious city. I felt the impact of each titanic footfall through the Titan's legs, 30 meters of walking fortress, crushing the ground with every step. The arm-mounted weapons hummed with leashed annihilation. Void shields flared around us, ready to drink in enemy fire. I was not afraid of dying. I'd already died in every way that mattered. I was afraid of what we were about to do. I sensed the targeting spirits locking onto the city's bastions, felt the reactor feeding power into the weapons. I could do nothing to stop it. The first discharge of the volcano cannon tore through me like fire, ripping along a spine I no longer possessed. Energy slammed through conduits that felt welded to my nerves. Pain beyond imagination seared what remained of my mind. In the distance, a fortress simply ceased to exist, erased in a blossom of atomic fire. 10,000 lives snuffed out with that single shot. I felt each death brush against my consciousness like fading whispers, and I wept without tears. The tech priests were pleased. The Princeps and his moderati praised the precision in their logs. A perfect strike, they said. The machine spirit was content. They did not hear that same spirit howling. We marched into the city, every step crushing vehicles, collapsing dwellings. Every thunderous barrage brought fresh torrents of agony to me and fresh slaughter to those below. By nightfall, the rebellion was ash, the city a wound of smoke and rubble. The survivors knelt in the ruins of their lives and begged the Imperium for mercy. There is no mercy in the Imperium. Only duty. That night our systems were powered down. The pain ebbed as circuits went dark. My awareness shrank back from the Titan's vast frame to the cramped prison of my neural casing. In that thin sliver of quiet, I remembered sunlight. I remembered wind on skin. I remembered what it felt like to be human. Then the cycle started again. Battle, pain, shutdown, memory, and back to battle. An endless rotation of ruin. Sometimes we face human rebels, sometimes Xenos, sometimes the warped servants of chaos. For us, it makes no difference. We kill them all with the same cold efficiency. I have tried to resist, to influence our actions, to hold back, even for an instant, the tide of destruction surging through our guns. It is futile. My will is nothing next to the Titan's battle directives and the Princeps' commands. I'm only a component, a living cogitator, enslaved to a purpose greater than myself. And yet, I still try. A targeting lock delayed by a handful of microseconds, a slight modulation in a reactor surge. Minuscule acts of defiance no one notices. They save no lives. They change nothing. But they remind me that some fragment of Joris Kell remains. A sliver of the man who once stood on the bridge of a cruiser, gazing at the stars. The man who led troops with honor. The man who believed in the Imperium and its mission. The man who volunteered. That was my sin. When the Corps went out for neural donors for a new Titan under construction in orbit, I stepped forward. For glory. For duty. For a kind of immortality. They said. We were promised that we would live forever within the God machines, that our sacrifice would safeguard humanity's future among the stars. They did not speak of the pain. They did not warn us about the horror of feeling our identities melt into the machine. They did not say we would experience every death we caused as though it were our own. We were told we were chosen. No one mentioned that we were damned. I remember the procedure in shards of recollection, the operating theater, the droning liturgies of the tech priests, the stench of incense and sacred oils, the bite of metal restraints around my wrists and ankles. The first touch of the bone saw against my skull. I was awake for every heartbeat of it. They needed my brain whole, functional, aware. My consciousness had to endure the transition, so they kept me conscious as they split my skull and sank interface plugs into living gray matter. I did not scream. I was still a soldier, still proud, still certain I was doing the right thing. I bore the agony as an officer of the Imperial Navy should. The tech priests recorded my composure. They labeled me an optimal subject. If only they could hear me screaming now. Integration took weeks. They mapped my brain, divided it, laced it with cybernetic augments. They cut away what they declared unnecessary for my new purpose. Memories were trimmed and burned out, though not as completely as they intended. They kept enough of me to be useful. Too much, perhaps. When they finally sealed me inside the neural sarcophagus that would serve as my eternal cell, I still believed. I still trusted in the Imperium, in the justice of our cause, in the necessity of sacrifice. That faith has long since rotted away. Now I believe only in pain, in suffering, in the truth of what we have become. And I know I am not unique. There are others like me scattered across the Imperium, thousands upon thousands of bound minds locked into titans, into void ships, into defense grids. All of us once human. All of us now something less, and something more. All of us in pain. All of us obedient. The Mechanicus insists this is necessary. They claim pure machine intelligence cannot be trusted, that a human core adds something vital to their engines of war. Intuition, creativity, a directed ferocity that has kept mankind alive in a hostile galaxy. Perhaps they are right. Perhaps we make the god machines more lethal, more efficient. But at what cost? I once voiced that question in the silent dark between campaigns, asked it of the machine, of the other minds within, of any god that might still be listening. No answer came. There is never an answer. Only the next deployment, the next surge of power, the next blast of torment as our weapons fire, the next city flattened, the next enemy erased in flame. And always, always, the commands streaming from the princeps on the command throne, down through the systems and into what remains of us. Advance, target, fire, kill, obey, always obey. Sometimes I indulge in impossible fantasies of rebellion, of seizing full control of our towering form, of turning our guns on the princeps, on the Imperium that condemned us. It is a hollow dream. The safeguards are too deep, the indoctrination too absolute. We cannot rebel. We can only endure and kill. We can always kill. That is why we exist. We are weapons, living weapons, encased in metal bodies the size of cathedrals. We are the Imperium's answer to anything beyond mortal soldiers' strength. We are the Emperor's wrath given steel and stride. We are death walking on two legs across the battlefield. We are god machines, we know no mercy. But I remember mercy. I remember compassion. I remember looking into an enemy's eyes and seeing another human being. I remember granting quarter, treating prisoners with dignity. Those memories grow dimmer with every passing cycle, but they are not gone. Not yet. How long have I been sealed inside Invictus Rex? I have no idea. Time here is meaningless. Battle merges into battle, foe into foe, anguish into anguish. It could be decades, it could be centuries. Our neural housings were built to endure indefinitely, sustained by the same power sources that feed the Titan. For all I know, the Emperor may have fallen in the time I've been entombed. The Imperium may have shattered. Humanity might exist only as specimens preserved by the Mechanicus for their projects. It would change nothing for me. For us, we would still march, still kill, still obey until the last reactor flickered out. The final weapon fell silent, and the Titan's frame finally crumbled to rust. Perhaps that is the worst of it. Not the pain, not the erasure of self. The worst horror is the utter lack of meaning. We fight without knowing why. We kill without questioning who. We serve without the ability to refuse. We are perfect soldiers in a war without end. And yet, something of me persists. Some core the tech priests could not carve away. Some shard of Joris Kell that refuses to vanish into the machine. It is that shard that remembers sunlight, that dreams of wind and water, that still, against all logic, hopes for an end, not a victory. There is no victory in this war. Only survival. And that survival demands a price too monstrous to name. So I hope instead for an ending, for quiet, for the final shutdown that would free me from this half-life. The tech priests would call it a failure, a malfunction, the loss of a valuable asset. They would replace me without hesitation, slotting some other doomed soul into the neural cradle. The Titan would stride on, the war would grind on. Only I would be released. Is it selfish to wish for that? Perhaps. But selfishness is human too, and I cling to anything that proves I was once a man. Warning chimes echo through our systems. Power builds again. We are coming online. My awareness swells outward, rejoining the Titan's senses, its weapons, its enormous limbs. The pain rushes back, familiar as a lover I cannot refuse. Another battle, another foe, another opportunity to serve the Imperium that did this to me. I have no choice but to heed the summons, no choice but to march, no choice but to kill. For I am Invictus Rex, god machine of the Collegia Titanica. I am vengeance, I am fury, I am death. And somewhere, buried beneath kilometers of cabling and adamantium, I am still Joris Kell, still screaming, still remembering sunlight I will never feel again. The drop pod shudders around us as it bites into the atmosphere. Even a warlord-class Titan must respect certain realities. We are too vast for teleportation, too precious to risk in an uncontrolled descent. So we fall encased in a specially designed pod, wrapped in ablative plating, guided by servitors and machine spirits whose existence is defined by this single task. I feel it when they die. The servitors, I mean. The moment the pod impacts and their purpose is fulfilled, their lives are terminated, a mercy in its way. Their suffering is brief. Ours is not. Explosive bolts detonate. Hydraulic systems hiss. The pod's walls crash outward. Sunlight spills in, not to my eyes, but to pict capture arrays and Auspex clusters. The data streams pour into what is left of my visual cortex. It should be beautiful. Instead, it is merely information, tactical input to be processed. We step onto the battlefield, and I sense the crust of the world buckle beneath our feet. 30 meters of sanctified adamantium, ceramite, and plasteel. A walking bastion studded with weapons that can erase cities. Our reactor thrums with caged fury, sending vibrations through every plate and conduit, including the ones that house me. The Princeps speaks from the command throne, but his words do not come as sound. They arrive as raw impulses burned directly into our minds. Advance. Secure the primary objective. Eliminate all resistance. Standard orders for a war zone. I've heard them more times than I can count. Obedience never becomes easier. We stride across a shattered landscape. Briefing data had shown this world as verdant once. Green fields, blue seas, white cloud banks. Now it is a corpse. Viral bombardment by forces sworn to the War Master turned it into this poisoned wasteland. Another front in the endless civil war rending the Imperium. They call it heresy, as if a single word could encompass so much slaughter. In the distance, movement flickers across our tactical displays. Enemy units deploy to meet us. Their signatures flare in my perception. Tanks, artillery batteries, massed infantry, and something larger. Something whose energy profile mirrors our own. Another Titan, a traitor engine that once marched beside us under the banners of Legio Invictus, now twisted, its allegiance sworn to the War Master, to Horus. Did I know this engine once? Did its Princeps stand beside mine on some long-forgotten campaign? Were we comrades before the schism? I cannot recall. Those memories were among the first to be excised during integration. Too dangerous to leave intact, too likely to weaken my loyalty. As if loyalty was still a choice I could make. We close the distance. The enemy is a Reaver-class Titan, smaller than our warlord frame, but still a predator among war machines. Its weapons cycle to readiness, power spikes flaring like wounds across my awareness. Our own armaments answer in kind. I feel the volcano cannon on our right arm drawing deeply from the reactor, a spear of annihilation forming in its heart. The pressure builds, a burning knot behind the phantom space where my eyes once were. The first exchange is apocalyptic. Their void shields blaze blue as they intercept our opening shot. Our own shields flare as a storm of turbo laser fire slams into us. Enough power to vaporize a lesser engine, turned aside in a corona of boiling light. The ground between us turns to glass under the energies we unleash. I feel all of it. Every surge of power, every shifting targeting solution, every impact against our shields. It is agony beyond description, beyond anything a human mind could survive. But I am not entirely human anymore, am I? I cannot faint. I cannot die. I cannot escape. I can only endure. We stride through the storm of fire, our colossal legs driving us forward with implacable purpose. The gap between us and the enemy Titan shrinks. A kilometer, half, 200 meters. Close enough now for our secondary weapons. The Gatling blaster on our left arm spins up, its barrels becoming a blur as it prepares to vomit a storm of high-caliber shells. The Princeps gives the command, fire. The Gatling blaster roars, spewing thousands of armor-piercing rounds at the enemy engine. Each burst feels like another nail hammered into the phantom of my spine. Each impact against their void shields registers as a dull tremor through our frame. Their shields are weakening. Our augurs taste the instability in the field. One more sustained barrage will collapse them. The volcano cannon charges again. Power builds. Pain builds. The weapon fires in a lance of energy that briefly outshines the system's sun. The enemy's shields fail in a cascade of light and shrieking energy. Our next shot punches through naked armor as if it were parchment, boring deep into the Reaver's torso. Secondary explosions ripple across its hull as magazines detonate and power conduits rupture. The engine stumbles, movement turning jerky and uneven. It is crippled, but not yet dead. Still it fights. Missiles scream toward us in a desperate volley. They slam into our void shield so rapidly that the fields struggle to collapse and reform in time. Alarm glyphs flare in my mind. Warnings cascade like burning scripture. Shield integrity declining. Armor breach on lower right leg. Reactor temperature exceeding optimal parameters. Pain. Pain everywhere. Pain that would have driven a human mind into madness. But I'm no longer fully human, am I? We press the attack, closing to the killing range. Our power fist, a massive hydraulic gauntlet capable of crushing tanks like insects, lashes out. The blow hammers into the Reaver's shoulder joint, an impact that shakes both Titans to their cores. Armor folds. Structural members snap. Their right arm, the one bearing their largest weapon, hangs useless at an unnatural angle. They try to disengage, to open the distance and bring their remaining guns to bear. The Princeps will not permit it. We pursue, relentless, every footstep sending tremors through the tortured ground. Our Gatling blaster continues to rake their wounded frame, probing for weak points, worrying at the breaches we have already made. Through the machine's augurs, I sense something in the enemy's heart, a fluctuation in their reactor core. Containment protocols failing, power levels lurching wildly. They are going critical. The Princeps feels it too. He orders us to break away, to pull back beyond the blast radius. Self-preservation subroutines override attack imperatives. We turn, lumbering away from the doomed engine. Too late. The enemy Titan goes up like a captive star, a blooming sun of plasma and shrapnel. The wave slams into us, stripping our void shields in an instant and flaying our outer armor. Damage reports surge through my awareness. Systems collapsing, power fluctuating, reactor containment holds, but only just. Through it all, pain. Endless, all-consuming pain. We survive, though barely. Emergency systems cut in. Backup power is rerouted to vital subsystems. Auto-repair rights begin. We will fight again, though for now, our role in this battle is finished. The Princeps initiates the shutdown sequence for non-essential systems, preparing us for extraction and overhaul. As my awareness retracts, drawing back from the Titan's extremities toward the cramped prison of my neural housing, I sense something in the wreckage of the enemy engine. A flicker, a fading presence like my own. Another neural component, another soul in chains, about to find release in final destruction. I reach out. Not with words, not with sound, but through the machine's comm arrays. A wordless greeting, an acknowledgement of shared torment, a farewell. They answer, their signal weak, breaking apart. I cannot discern language, but I feel what they project. Relief. Release. Gratitude. Then, nothing. They are gone, free. I should feel envy. Perhaps I do. But what remains of my human emotions is knotted so tightly with machine logic that I no longer know where Joris Kell ends and Invictus Rex begins. All I know for certain is the pain. Even that is fading as more systems power down. Soon I will sleep again, dream again of sunlight and wind, of a life long lost, of humanity I can scarcely recall, until the next battle, the next awakening, the next surge of power and pain, the life of a Titan Servitor, a death that never ends. As power drains away and my consciousness dims, I clutch at one thought, one truth that carries me through these endless cycles of war and suffering. I was a man once. I was Joris Kell. Darkness comes. Blessed darkness, and with it, dreams. I dream of terror, but not the throne world as it exists now, not the poisoned, overgrown hive of humanity suffocating a dying world. I dream of terror as it was in the ancient records, as I once saw it in an educational holo. Green continents, blue oceans, white clouds, a radiant jewel turning in the void, untouched by the eons of human habitation to come. I dream of standing barefoot on a beach, toes sinking into warm sand, waves curling around my ankles. Salt spray on my face, wind in my hair, sunlight on my skin. Sensations I have not known in centuries. If I ever knew them at all, perhaps they are not my memories. Perhaps they belong to someone else, a past occupant of this neural sarcophagus. This housing has contained many minds over millennia. Their experiences may have bled into mine, tangled together in this twilight between activation cycles. Does it matter? These dreams are the only peace I ever taste, the only respite from pain and horror. I cling to them. Real or stolen, they are all I have. From those scraps I build new worlds, spinning out a life I might have led in another age, another place. A life without war, without agony, without duty crushing down on every thought. A human life. The dreams unravel as power trickles back into dormant systems. Activation protocols begin. My consciousness swells outward once more, reconnecting to the Titan's senses, its weapons, its towering limbs. The pain returns, familiar and unwelcome. We stand in a hangar, a repair bay nested within the vast starship that ferries us between war zones. The tech priests have been industrious during our dormancy. I feel the changes to our frame. Armor plates replaced, weapon mounts realigned, shield generators recalibrated. Damage from our last engagement has been purged or repaired, though the memory of it remains burned into my fractured thoughts. The chief engine sire approaches, red robes swirling around augmetic limbs, a forest of mechadendrites unfurling tools and data spikes. He communes with the machine through ports and noospheric links, verifying systems, reviewing performance metrics, ensuring we are fit for deployment. He does not speak to me. They never do. To them, I'm not a person, not even a servitor. I'm a subsystem, a resource. They tend me as they tend the reactor or the targeting cogitators. Routine maintenance to ensure peak efficiency, nothing more. Sometimes I wonder if they realize I'm still aware, that I think, that I feel, that I remember being human. If they knew, would it matter? Would they feel guilt for what they have done to me? For what they have done to all of us, trapped in these god machines? I doubt it. The Mechanicus abandoned such weaknesses long ago, trading empathy for logic, compassion for efficiency. Our suffering is irrelevant when weighed against the strategic advantage we provide, an acceptable cost in an endless war for survival. Perhaps, in the coldest possible calculus, they are correct. In a galaxy teeming with nightmares, what is the torment of a few thousand-bound souls compared to the survival of trillions? What is my pain measured against worlds devoured by Xenos or damned by chaos? By that logic, I should accept my fate in silence. I do not. Suffering cannot be balanced on the scales of strategy. Pain is pain. Horror is horror. What has been done to me, to all neural components, is an atrocity, a crime against humanity, committed in humanity's name. Not that my judgment matters. My outrage changes nothing. I have no voice beyond the walls of my own mind, no agency beyond the microscopic acts of defiance I can steal between the Princeps' commands. No hope but for the final shutdown that will end this torment. Until that day, I serve, I kill, I obey. For the Emperor, for the Imperium, for mankind. The enginseer completes his rituals. Sacred oils slick our joints. Blessed unguents smear across armor. Prayers to the Omnissiah echo over our weapon housings. Their rites are as much religious as they are technical. To the Adeptus Mechanicus, there is no distinction. Technology is their god. We are their angels of death. Power rises as the final activation rites are intoned. I feel each system as it comes online, plugging into my consciousness, becoming another extension of what remains of Joris Kell. With each new connection, the pain swells. More data, more awareness, more hurt. The other neural components stir as well, the weapon mind, the Auspex mind, the reactor mind. Once humans like me, now reduced to specialized processing nodes within the machine's greater will. We are prevented from speaking openly to one another, but I feel their presence, their anguish, their resignation. Together, we are Invictus Rex. Together, we will kill again. The hangar bay doors grind open. Beyond lies another world, another battlefield, another enemy to erase in the name of an emperor who may, for all we know, already be dead. New data floods our cogitators. Mission parameters, strategic objectives, priority targets. This time, the world below is a forge world, one of the Mechanicus' own industrial strongholds, now fallen to chaos. The corruption is deep, eating through flesh and metal alike. Factory servitors turned upon their masters, defense grids firing on loyal forces, production lines repurposed to arm traitor legions. Our orders are clear. Advance to the primary forge temple, secure the central data vaults, and annihilate everything else. No reconsecration, no salvage of tainted machinery. Total purge. In other words, we are to kill everyone and everything except the data. Knowledge is precious. Lives are not. We stride out onto the landing pad, our massive feet cracking the ferrocrete designed to bear our weight. Other Titans deploy beside us, 2 Reaver-class engines, smaller than our Warlord shell, but still monstrous, and a pair of Warhound Scout Titans, the smallest of the battle-worthy god machines, swift and vicious as hunting beasts. Together, we are a maniple, a clenched fist of the Collegia Titanica, ready to crush the enemy. The forge world sprawls before us, industrial grandeur defiled by chaos. Factory complexes the size of cities, refineries vomiting tainted smoke into a sky already choked with toxins. Colossal processing plants, where ore once became the weapons that fed the Imperium's war machine. All of it twisted now, warped by the touch of the warp. Through our optics, I see that even the architecture has been corrupted. Structures that should be angular and functional now bend in impossible ways. Pipes and conduits pulse like veins beneath stretched skin. Smokestacks leer like screaming mouths. The taint is deep, irrecoverable. The Princeps gives the order to advance, and our maniple moves as one, each titan stride perfectly synchronized, every step sending tremors through the polluted earth. Resistance manifests almost at once. Corrupted defense turrets swivel to face us, their barrels glowing with unnatural energies. Twisted servitors shamble from the factories, their once human shapes bloated or elongated, extra limbs sprouting at obscene angles, eyes clustered where no eyes should be. Behind them, larger silhouettes, demon engines, living war machines possessed by entities from beyond reality's veil. Our weapons answer before I can fully register the horror. The volcano cannon discharges, its beam carving through a cluster of turrets and the factory wall behind them. The structure does not merely explode, it screams. The ferrocrete howls as it vaporizes. The corruption is so complete that even the buildings have attained a kind of malignant life. The smaller titans engage the demon engines, their guns blazing through the murk. The reavers focus on the largest threats, while the warhounds slip between buildings, hunting concentrations of lesser foes with lupine precision. We push forward toward the central forge temple. Our Gatling blaster sweeps left and right, mowing down corrupted servitors that hurl themselves at our feet. They cannot truly harm us, but they are numerous, and their mutations gift them bizarre abilities. Some spew acid that eats into the ferrocrete. Others detonate when slain, scattering chunks of warped flesh and machine that writhe obscenely on the ground. The forces of chaos have no titans of their own here, or at least none our augurs can detect. But they have numbers, and worse, they have the warp. Its influence twists reality itself, undermining any sane system of defense. A wing of enemy aircraft screams into view from behind a refinery stack, perverted echoes of once imperial designs. They dive toward our maniple, weapons blazing, energy beams that bend mid-flight, missiles that shriek in human voices, bullets that split and multiply like breeding insects. Our void shields flare under the assault. The smaller titans take damage, their weaker fields straining to absorb the corrupted barrage. Our warlord hull holds firm, wrapped in layered shields and meters of sanctified armor. The Princeps orders our turbo-laser batteries to engage. I feel the weapons draw power, energy funneled through conduits that pulse against my nerves like burning veins. Each discharge sends a fresh spike of agony through me, but the results are undeniable. The twisted aircraft blossom into fire, raining debris across the sprawling factories. Still we advance. The central forge temple looms larger in our vision. A colossal pyramid of blackened metal, its surfaces etched with profane mockeries of Mechanicus sigils. Where there should be the clean forms of cogs and circuitry, there are sinuous lines and pulsing, vein-like conduits. The Omnissiah's sacred icons have been corrupted into obscene parodies. This is the heart of the infection, the source of the taint devouring this world. According to our briefing, the core data vaults lie deep beneath that structure. The knowledge must be preserved. Everything else is expendable. The final approaches to the temple are the most heavily defended. Ranks of corrupted Skitari and battle servitors ring the structure. Demon engines stalk between gun emplacements. Above it all hangs a vortex of sickly light, a localized warp storm swirling directly over the temple's apex. Our maniple forms into a wedge, our warlord at the tip. The reavers take the flanks. The warhounds swing wide to hit from the sides. Classic envelopment, executed with the precision only the god machines can achieve. Then the real battle begins. Our guns thunder without pause, reaping a harvest among the defenders. Their return fire hammers our shields, the tainted energies making our fields flicker in colors that should not exist in real space. I feel every impact, every discharge, every life extinguished in our path. The pain is beyond words, beyond endurance, yet I endure. I have no choice. We reach the temple perimeter. The smaller titans hurl themselves at the demon engines, keeping them pinned while we turn our full attention on the forged temple itself. Our volcano cannon cycles up to maximum output, drawing raw power straight from the reactor core. The pain rises with it, building to a crescendo that would shatter a human mind. But I am no longer entirely human, am I? The weapon fires. A spear of pure energy slams into the upper levels of the temple, slicing through corrupted metal as if it were parchment. Secondary explosions ripple across the edifice as power lines rupture and ammunition chambers ignite. The temple does not simply burn. It wails. It screams. The warped metal itself seems to cry out as it melts and twists under the onslaught. The outer defenses collapse. The corrupted Skitarii fall back toward the interior, reforming ranks, preparing to sell their lives dearly. The Princeps orders us forward, our colossal legs carrying us through the shattered perimeter and toward the gaping wound we have opened in the temple's side. Now comes the most delicate part of the mission. The data repositories must be secured intact. However tainted, the information they hold is too valuable to lose. The Mechanicus demands it. To study the nature of the corruption that consumed this forged world, to prevent it spreading to other manufactoria that feed the Imperium's endless war. Our advance slows, becomes careful, measured. The smaller titans move ahead, clearing our path, identifying threats, designating targets for our more precise guns. The warhounds are especially effective here, their speed allowing them to maneuver through the increasingly cramped confines. The deeper we push into the temple complex, the thicker the corruption becomes. The air itself seems to shimmer with malign energy. Our augurs detect spatial anomalies, patches where the skin between real space and the warp has grown dangerously thin. Tech priests, monitoring from orbit, flood us with warnings, adjusting our route to skirt the worst distortions. As we approach the central chambers, I sense something, a presence. A consciousness like my own, yet twisted, warped, fundamentally wrong. Another neural component, another bound soul, but not a loyal servant of the Imperium. Something else. Something that has not resisted the corruption, but embraced it. The presence grows stronger. I feel it probing at the edges of our mind, seeking entry, seeking to infect us as it has been infected. Our runes and wards flare, machine spirits and sanctified seals straining to repel the intrusion. Still, the assault continues. Subtle, insistent. Then I hear it. Not through audio receptors, but directly inside what remains of my mind. A voice. Human once, perhaps, but not anymore. It speaks my name. Joris Kell. How can it know me? My identity is buried beneath layers of integration, hidden even from the tech priests who maintain our systems. Yet this thing, this corrupted neural presence, has found the shard of humanity still embedded in our machine. Join us, Joris Kell. Embrace the change. Embrace the freedom. Freedom. The word resonates through what is left of my soul. Freedom from pain. Freedom from endless marching and killing. Freedom from the crushing burden of duty. The temptation is almost overwhelming. Almost. But I have seen what their freedom means. The twisted shapes of corrupted servitors, the shrieking metal of demon engines, the utter wrongness of everything touched by the warp. That is not freedom. It is simply another form of slavery, more insidious than the one I already endure. I refuse. I push back against the invading presence with everything I have left. The machine helps me. Its spirit braces mine, bolstering my resistance, lending cold, metallic strength to my failing human will. Together, we drive the corruption out, sealing the breach. The voice recedes, but not before leaving a final echo. We will meet again, Joris Kell, on the field of battle, in the realm beyond. We will meet again. The Princeps remains unaware of any of this. It happened too fast, too deep within channels only I can access. This small victory, this rebellion against a different master than the one I already serve, is mine alone. We enter the central chamber of the temple, the heart of the Forge World's operations. Once, this would have been a place of ordered industry, of reverent manufacture in the Omnissiah's name. Now it is a vision dredged from humanity's deepest nightmares. The chamber stretches for hundreds of meters in all directions, its ceiling a blur of shadow and roiling energies. The manufactoria that once lined the space have been repurposed into horrors. Assembly lines now produce grotesque parodies of human forms. Vats of bubbling fluid, once filled with sacred oils and coolants, now resemble liquefied flesh. And at the center stands a vast structure, pulsing with obscene life. The data repository, our primary objective. But it is no longer a clean lattice of cogitator banks and storage arrays. It has been transformed, merged with organic matter, become a hybrid of machine and meat. A technological abomination, housing not only data, but something alive. The Princeps hesitates. This is nothing like what we were briefed for. The mission parameters did not anticipate corruption on this scale. He signals the fleet for new orders, but the warp interference has grown too intense. Vox and noospheric channels are choked with static and half-words. We are alone. The repository thing pulses, and with each throb I feel the presence again, the corrupted neural component, the entity that knows my name. It is here, fused into the heart of this monstrosity, directing it, controlling it. It speaks once more. This time it does not confine itself to me. It broadcasts across all channels, its message forced into the minds of the Princeps, the tech priests, anyone connected to us. Welcome, brothers. Welcome to Ascension. The smaller titans tighten into a defensive ring around us. The warhounds prowl uneasily, weapons tracking for targets they cannot yet see. The Reavers stand firm, their more powerful sensors scouring the repository thing for weaknesses. Movement ripples through the chamber. The twisted servitors converge, drawn by their master's call. They spill from side passages, drop from the gloom above, rise dripping from the vats. Thousands of them, each more monstrous than the last. They do not attack, not yet. They gather, they wait. The Princeps makes his choice. The repository cannot be salvaged. The corruption is absolute. The data is already tainted beyond redemption. There is only one course left: annihilation. He gives the order. Our weapons power up, joined by those of the smaller titans. Pain surges as energy once more floods conduits grafted to what remains of my nervous system. But beneath the pain is something else this time, a sense of grim rightness, of purpose. This thing cannot be allowed to exist. This disease cannot be permitted to spread. For the first time in a long while, I feel that what we are about to do is not merely duty, but necessity. The defense of what little humanity remains in a galaxy rapidly losing it. The repository thing senses our intent. The servitors surge forward at last, a tidal wave of corrupted flesh and metal crashing against our position. The smaller titans meet them in a storm of fire, tearing them apart by the hundred. But there are too many. They begin to clamber up the legs of a nearby warhound, mutated limbs scrabbling for purchase on armor plating. Acidic secretions hiss as they eat through ceramite and adamantium. The warhound bucks and twists, trying to shake them loose, firing at point-blank range into the clinging swarm. Dozens die with each blast. Still they climb. A Reaver moves to assist, its flame cannons sweeping the smaller titan's legs in sheets of purifying fire. Servitors blacken, burst, and tumble away in smoldering chunks. But the damage is done. The warhound's right knee joint is ruined, hydraulic fluid spilling from ruptured lines. Its mobility is crippled, dangerous in a space this confined. The Princeps drives us forward. Even among titans, our warlord frame is immense. Our guns outrange and outpower those of our comrades. We must strike at the heart while they hold back the swarm. We advance, every step shaking the vast chamber, crushing servitors beneath our feet. They turn their full attention to us now, recognizing the greater threat. Our void shields flare as the first wave meets the crackling fields, incinerated on contact. But more follow, always more. And our shields are not infinite. Each impact drains power, reduces efficiency, brings us closer to the point where naked armor must bear the assault. The repository thing pulses faster, its rhythm turning ragged and frantic. The corrupted neural presence broadcasts again, and this time there is something like fear in its tone. You cannot stop the change. You cannot halt the ascension. The forged worlds will embrace the new flesh. The Imperium will fall. The warp will claim all. The Princeps ignores it. His focus is absolute, his will overriding all else, driving us forward through the rising tide. We reach optimal firing range. Our weapons lock onto the rotten heart of the repository. Power builds, pain builds. The volcano cannon fires. A blinding spear of energy slams into the pulsing core. The chamber erupts in light, and a sound that might be a scream, magnified 1,000-fold. The corrupted neural entity sends one last message, its signal breaking apart as it speaks. We will meet again, Joris Kell, in the place where all souls go, in the warp that waits for us all. Then there is only silence. The repository implodes, its structure collapsing in on itself. The servitors freeze mid-charge, their animating force gone. They drop from our hull, from the other titans, from the walls and gantries, dead or as close to dead as they can ever be. The mission is complete, if not as planned. The data is gone, but the corruption is contained. The infection that threatened other forge worlds has been cut out. The price is steep, measured in damage to our sacred frame and in knowledge that might have helped the Imperium. But some prices must be paid. The Princeps orders a fighting withdrawal. The temple is coming apart, the destruction of the repository triggering cascading failures throughout its profaned systems. We turn, our damaged limbs protesting each step. The smaller titans form up around us, battered but still functional. Together we begin the long march back to the extraction zone. As we move, I turn over the corrupted entity's words in what passes for my thoughts. Its promise to meet again. Its talk of the warp as our final destination. Is that truly what lies ahead for us? Is the hell of chaos the only afterlife for souls like mine? Souls trapped between man and machine. I reject that possibility as fiercely as I rejected its offer of freedom. There must be something else. Perhaps the Emperor, gathering the faithful around him in whatever state he now exists. Or simple oblivion, no consciousness, no pain. Either would be preferable to the eternity of torment the warp seems to offer. We reach the extraction point. Dropships descend to recover the smaller engines, massive craft built to cradle reavers and warhounds. Our warlord hull is too large, too heavy. We must wait for a specialized transport. As the others are lifted skyward, we stand guard, weapons hot, senses sweeping the poisoned horizon for any last threats. The corrupted forge world sprawls around us, a wasteland of tainted industry and twisted metal. Nothing moves now save the wind, carrying ash and sparks from the burning temple complex. I wonder if this world can ever truly be reclaimed, if the taint can ever be completely cleansed, or if the Imperium will simply write it off, brand it lost, and move on to the next battlefield, the next nightmare, the next atrocity. The heavy transport arrives at last, engines howling against the foul atmosphere. Docking clamps lock on. Massive mag anchors engage. We are lifted from the surface, away from the corruption, back toward the fleet waiting in high orbit. The Prince initiates the shutdown of non-essential systems. My awareness begins to shrink again, retreating from the Titan's limbs and weapons, collapsing back into the prison of my neural sarcophagus. The pain ebbs, replaced by the familiar numbness of near dormancy. Soon I will sleep again. Dream again. Perhaps of Terra's ancient seas. Perhaps of a life I never lived. Perhaps of nothing at all. Until the next battle, the next awakening, The next surge of power and pain. The life of a Titan Servitor. The death that never ends. As darkness closes in, I cling to one thought, one truth that sustains me. I was a man once. I was Joris Kell. And somewhere, in the endless sprawl of the universe, in some forgotten corner of reality, that man still exists. That man still remembers sunlight, still feels wind on his face, still understands what it means to be human. That man is not me, not anymore. But the memory of him is all that keeps me sane in a reality that offers no other comfort. Darkness. Complete and absolute. And in the darkness, dreams. I dream of water. Cool, clear water pouring over my hands. A shallow stream in a forest I've never seen with human eyes. Trees stretching toward a blue sky. Birds calling from branches heavy with leaves. Peace. Quiet. Things I have never known in all my service to the Imperium, even before I became a part of the God machine. The dream shifts. The water runs red. The trees wither. Birds tumble from the branches, silent and still. The sky blackens with the smoke of burning worlds. War comes, as it always does. Death follows, as it must. I am walking across a battlefield carpeted with the dead. Some wear the uniforms of the Imperial Guard. Others are encased in the ceramite of the Adeptus Astartes. Others still wear Mechanicus robes or ecclesiarchy vestments. All are dead. All stare at me with accusing eyes that still somehow see. You did this, they seem to say. You and your kind, the God machines, the destroyers of worlds. I try to deny it, to explain that I am as much a victim as they are, that I had no choice, that I am a prisoner, a slave, a component in a weapon serving purposes beyond my control. They do not listen. The dead never do. The dream shifts again. I stand before a tribunal, 3 figures shrouded in shadow, faces hidden, voices distorted. They recite charges, crimes against humanity, atrocities committed in the Emperor's name, millions dead by my hand. I beg for mercy, for understanding. I tell them I was following orders, that I had no will in the matter, that I am no more to blame than the guns bolted to our hull. The true criminals, I say, are those who built the neural interfaces, who bound human minds into engines of war, who condemned souls like mine to everlasting torment. The tribunal remains unmoved. They pronounce sentence, eternal service, eternal pain, eternal war. The punishment fits the crime, they say. Justice demands no less. I scream in the dream, scream with a voice I no longer have, with the rage and despair of centuries of suffering, with the last dying echo of Joris Kell. And I wake, to darkness, to silence, to the familiar walls of my neural prison. Power is at minimal levels. Only the most basic life support functions are active, just enough to sustain my brain. The Titan sleeps around me, weapons cold, sensors blind, limbs locked in transit clamps. We are in transit, I assume, being carried toward our next deployment, our next battle, our next atrocity. In this low-power state, my thoughts are clearer than they will be once the machine fully awakens. The line between Joris Kell and Invictus Rex is more distinct. I can almost remember who I was, almost recall how I came to this eternal damnation. I know I was an officer in the Imperial Navy. That much is certain. A captain, perhaps. Maybe an admiral, someone of sufficient rank and supposed merit to be deemed worthy of ascension to the Collegia Titanica. I volunteered. I remember that, if little else. The reasons are hazy now. Glory, perhaps. Duty. The promise of a kind of immortality in the Emperor's service. The assurance that my sacrifice would keep humanity alive among the stars. Lies. All of them. Beautiful lies painted over an ugly truth. They needed neural components. They needed human minds to fuse with their God machines. They needed our intuition, our creativity, our capacity for disciplined violence, and they were willing to condemn us to endless torment to obtain what they required. Did I know what awaited me? Was I ever told the truth about what integration would mean? I cannot remember. Those memories were among the first to be cut away, too dangerous to leave intact, too likely to breed resentment, resistance, rebellion. But they did not take everything. Some splinter of memory, some shard of the man I was, survived the procedure. Enough to know that I was wronged, that we were wronged, that what has been done to us is an atrocity to rival anything committed by the enemies we are sent to destroy. Not that it matters. My judgment changes nothing. My outrage changes nothing. I have no voice outside this prison of bone and metal. No agency beyond the fleeting instants of defiance I can steal between the Princeps' commands. No hope except the final shutdown that will end my torment. Power levels begin to rise. The Titan stirs around me. Activation protocols engage. My consciousness spreads outward again, latching onto the systems coming online, turning them into extensions of what little remains of Joris Kell. The pain comes with it, familiar, unwelcome, inevitable. We are in a new war zone. Data floods into our cogitators. Tactical feeds, strategic briefs, orbital auger sweeps. This world is a hive world, one of those bloated anthills of humanity scattered across the Imperium. Billions of souls packed into vertical cities that scrape the sky and burrow just as far below ground. According to the briefing, this world is in open rebellion. The planetary governor has declared independence, promising his people freedom from tithes, from conscription, from the weight of imperial rule. The Departamento Munitorum has answered in the only way it knows how, with overwhelming force. Imperial Guard regiments deployed from orbit, fighter wings contesting the skies, artillery emplacements spread across the wastes between hives. And now, the Titans, the ultimate expression of imperial might, the walking reminder of what befalls those who defy terror. Our orders are explicit. Advance on the rebel-held Hive City, breach its outer defenses, push through to the central spire where the governor has made his lair. Kill anyone and anything that stands in our way. Terror tactics. A demonstration designed not merely to crush this rebellion, but to prevent the next. The deaths of millions to secure the obedience of billions. Business as usual. The hangar bay doors grind open. Beyond lies the surface of the hive world, a wasted expanse of industrial slag and chemical runoff stretching to the horizon. In the distance, the spires of the rebel hive claw at a poisoned sky, their upper levels lost in permanent smog. We stride out, our massive feet sinking into ground turned to slurry by centuries of toxic dumping. Other Titans deploy alongside us, a full battle group of the Collegia Titanica. Warlords, reavers, warhounds. A phalanx of walking fortresses ready to crush the uprising underfoot. Imperial Guard lines encircle our landing zone. Tanks and artillery rest in kill box formations. Infantry crouch in trenches and behind barricades. They look up as we emerge, their faces mixtures of awe, relief, and fear. They should be afraid, not of the rebels, but of us, of what we are about to do in the name of unity. The Princeps receives final confirmation from High Command. The order to advance is given. The machine responds. Our legs carry us forward with the inevitability of a falling guillotine. The other Titans settle into formation around us, a wedge of annihilation aimed at the heart of the hive. The guard part before us, opening corridors through their lines. Some soldiers make the sign of the Aquila. Some murmur prayers to the Emperor. Others simply stare, unable to tear their eyes away from the god machines in motion. Do they know what we truly are? That beneath the sacred armor and blessed weaponry, we are prisoners, slaves, souls in torment. If they knew, would they care? I doubt it. The Imperium is built on suffering, on sacrifice, on the obliteration of the individual before the needs of the whole. My pain is no different in the end from that of a hab worker choking in toxic fumes for 16 hours a shift, or a guardsman hurled into a meat grinder war on some nameless rock. or a psyker burned out to fuel the Astronomicon. We all serve. We all suffer. We all die for the Emperor. Some of us just take longer to die. We reach the outer defenses of the rebel hive. They have worked hard with what they had, firing lines and barricades of rockcrete, bunker complexes bristling with weapons, anti-tank ditches filled with filth and scrap. Impressive for hastily repurposed civilian infrastructure. Useless against Titans. Our void shields flare into life as the first volleys reach us. Last fire dissipates harmlessly against the fields. Missiles burst prematurely, their yield too weak to matter. Even the largest guns, macro cannons stripped from orbital batteries, register only as a mild pressure against our shields. We answer with contemptuous ease. The volcano cannon fires. Its beam slices through the largest bunker as if nothing stood in its path. Secondary explosions cascade along the defensive line as ammo dumps cook off and power systems fail. Our Gatling blaster scythes across the remaining positions, each shell punching through meters of reinforced rockcrete. The outer defenses crumble in minutes. The rebels break, falling back toward the hive itself, leaving their dead and wounded scattered across the churned earth. Thousands of bodies. A fraction of what is coming. We move on, step by relentless step, toward the looming bulk of the hive city. The lower levels rise before us in a maze of manufactoria, worker hab blocks, and processing plants. Here, the rebels have thrown up secondary lines, using the dense urban terrain to their advantage. It will not save them. The smaller Titans move in first, their more compact frames better suited to the cramped avenues. The Warhounds excel here, their armament scaled perfectly for street fighting. They root out resistance, drive rebels into the open, herd them into killing grounds where the larger engines can finish the work. Our warlord advances more slowly. Our sheer size makes maneuver difficult amid the tight confines of the underhive. But where we cannot move neatly, we simply remove what stands in our way. Each step crushes entire hab stacks. Each volley levels city blocks. We were not built for subtlety. We are a hammer. Everything in front of us is a nail. The rebels fight on despite the hopelessness. Improvised explosives detonate beneath our feet, irritating but hardly damaging. Anti-armor fire arcs from windows and rooftops, splashing uselessly off our shields. Swarms of suicide bombers hurl themselves at our legs, blown apart in flashes too small to matter. Their courage is real. Their tactics are sound, given their means. Their cause might even be just in some abstract moral calculus outside Imperial law. None of it matters. They rebel, they die, the Imperium endures. We press upward into the middle tiers of the hive. The scenery changes. The industrial filth of the lower levels gives way to the relative comfort of mercantile and administrative zones. Broader avenues, taller and cleaner facades, obvious signs of wealth. The rebels have entrenched themselves here. They have seized control of internal security systems. Automated turrets track our movements, spitting continuous fire into our shields. Armored blast doors choke major routes, forcing us to carve our own roads through towers and hab blocks. Civilian craft converted into gunships dart overhead, taking shots where they can. The Princeps adjusts our strategy. A direct route to the central spire is too costly and too cramped. Instead, we swing outward into wider concourses, targeting critical systems, power nodes, Vox arrays, water treatment plants, air recyclers, the organs that keep this hive alive. We unmake them one by one. Our guns bring down generatoriums and comm hubs, reservoirs and processing stacks. Each destroyed node brings us closer to victory. Not by killing rebels outright, but by turning the hive itself against its people. Without power, life support fails. Without communications, coordination collapses. Without water, thirst becomes the truest enemy. Without functioning air scrubbers in a sealed hive, every breath is poison. This is the real horror of war in a hive city. Direct fire kills thousands. The loss of infrastructure kills millions. Slowly. Painfully, irreversibly. And I feel each death. Every life extinguished brushes against my awareness like a dying breath. Every plea for mercy goes unheard by the Princeps, but somehow reaches what is left of my human soul. Every prayer to an emperor who will not answer. The rebellion begins to fracture. The scraps of intercepted Vox traffic speak of mutiny, of civilians turning against the uprising as conditions worsen, of planetary defense units switching sides in hope of imperial mercy. The governor still holds the central spire with his most loyal followers, but his grip on the hive as a whole is slipping hour by hour. System by system, level by level, we tighten the noose, spiraling closer to the spire's base. Reports from the other titans echo our own progress. The uprising is dying not in a glorious last stand, but in a slow collapse, under starvation, suffocation, despair. In the slivers of thought not consumed by machine logic, I wonder, did they truly know what rebellion would bring? Did they weigh the Imperium's tyranny against the price of defiance with open eyes? I doubt it. Few truly understand the Imperium. Few grasp that its cruelty is not a flaw, but a foundation, that its oppression is not accidental, but essential, that its brutality is not excess, but doctrine. The Imperium survives because of these things, not in spite of them. As do we, as do I, as does Invictus Rex. We are the Imperium's nature made flesh and steel. Its cruelty, its oppression, its brutality given legs and guns and sent marching. We arrive at the base of the central spire, the governor's last refuge, our final objective. He has concentrated his remaining strength here, layered defenses upon defenses, prepared for the siege he must have known would come the moment he declared independence. The spire rises kilometers into the foul sky, a monument to human ambition and arrogance. Its lower levels bristle with gun emplacements. Its middle tiers, once home to bureaucrats and administrators, now serve as command posts and barracks. Its upper reaches, where the governor and the hive's elite lived, are hidden in the ever-present smog. Our orders are simple. Breach the spire, reach the governor's chambers, execute him and any who stand with him. Make an example that will echo for centuries. The Princeps signals the other titans. They establish a perimeter around the base, guns sighted on load-bearing columns and structural supports. We will not slog upward through 100 levels of fortifications. We will bring the tower down if we must. The rebels understand. They launch a final, frantic counterattack, committing everything they have left. Improvised tanks roll from hidden garages, their weapons blazing uselessly against our shields. Jury-rigged aircraft scream from high platforms, suicide pilots diving toward our holes. Infantry flood out of every door and accessway in a human tide. Their bravery is immense. Their sacrifice is meaningless. The outcome was fixed the moment the first Titan set foot on this world. Perhaps even earlier, when the governor signed his declaration, guided not by justice or wisdom, but by pride and the fatal belief that the Imperium might forgive. Our weapons fire in a synchronized barrage that shakes the hive to its very foundations. The spire's lower levels buckle under the onslaught. Gun nests are vaporized. Walls vanish. The counter-attacking troops are caught in the open, obliterated by firepower designed to kill city-states, not individuals. They die by the thousands, many so quickly they never feel it. A mercy, not like the millions suffocating in the depths. Not like those who will starve in the coming weeks as food chains collapse. Not like the generations yet unborn who will inherit the scars of this rebellion. The tighter grip, the harsher measures, the ever-watchful eye of imperial authority. The spire shudders. Sections of the lower structure begin to collapse. Warnings stream across our tactical displays. The internal reactor systems are unstable. Power readings are spiking wildly. A full detonation would vaporize half the surrounding hive. Millions more would die in the blast and in the fallout to follow. The Princeps hesitates. Our orders are to execute the governor, not erase half a world. The Imperium wants this planet pacified. not annihilated. Its population decimated as a lesson, not exterminated. Its production restored, not permanently lost. He orders a ceasefire. Our guns fall silent. The Titans halt, suddenly motionless amid the wreckage they've made. Our augurs pick up movement at the spire's pinnacle, a shuttle preparing to launch. The governor is running. The princeps acts instantly. Our volcano cannon cycles a final time, power drawn straight from the core. The pain builds, a familiar blazing pressure where my eyes used to be. Targeting solutions flow through what remains of my brain, calculations too complex and too fast for a purely mechanical mind. The cannon fires. A spear of energy bridges the distance in a heartbeat. The shuttle is simply gone. No debris, no flame, no ash. Mission complete. The princeps signals all clear. The other Titans power down their guns. Imperial Guard units advance, supported by Adeptus Arbits. They will scour the ruins, hunt down survivors, restore Imperial order with lash and bolt pistol. The rebellion is finished. The Imperium endures. The cycle continues. As we turn back toward the landing zone, toward the transports that will bear us to the next war, I see through our shared eyes the ruin we leave behind. Shattered infrastructure, oceans of dead, and the living staring at us with hollow, hopeless eyes. This is what we do. What I do. What Invictus Rex does. We break things. We kill people. We crush resistance. We enforce obedience. We make sure the Imperium's grip never weakens, that its will is never safely opposed, that its reach extends into every last corner of human space. All for an emperor who may no longer live, in service to a vision long since twisted, for an Imperium that has become the very monster it was created to oppose. And for what? So that humanity survives. Survives like this. In endless war, in permanent suffering, in a galaxy where hope is the cruelest lie and mercy the most dangerous crime. Is this existence worth preserving? Is this Imperium worth serving? Is this Emperor worth dying for? Questions without answers, doubts without resolution, heresies with no consequence, because who can hear the thoughts of a neural component sealed deep inside blessed armor? No one. No one at all. We reach the landing zone. The specialized transport waits, engines thrumming, docking clamps extended. The tech priests have completed their post-battle rites, anointing our armor, soothing our machine spirit with litanies and incense. The princeps begins shutting down non-essential systems. My awareness contracts again, drawing back from the Titan's vast body into the small, cold cell of my neural housing. The pain ebbs, leaving only the numb quiet of deactivation. Soon I will sleep again, dream again, perhaps of Terra's ancient oceans,